East Africa from Centunion. Centunion is a Spanish company founded 55 years ago, so not precisely a startup. We've been present in Kenya in the last 10 years, contributing to the infrastructure development here by about 15 or so bridges. One of them commissioned very recently in Langata Road is an overpass that is helping to reduce traffic jams in that area in a very efficient way with a very small investment compared to in the scale of large governmental projects. We can contribute to the discussion here by selling the benefits of our product, which is to reduce the traffic time to improve the efficiency of the road network of urban areas such as Nairobi for Namata and the Nairobi area in general. We have built this project with European standards. I think everybody's quite happy with the result of it. We've contributed to the local economy as much as we could with a very limited number of expatriates and taking care of incorporating into the project very many students or recent graduates from the Kenyan universities. The tangible benefits of this project that could interest the panelists here as the superstructure of our road networks, meaning the vehicles, get decarbonized by means of electric vehicles, improvements in the road networks by means of interchanges and efficient junctions can also save a lot of CO2 emissions. For example, in our case, our feasibility study determines that about 4,800 liters of fuel are saved per day in this junction alone. That converts into 4,400 tons of CO2 per year. That is an environmental gain from this project. Could also be added to the economic benefit of the delay times saved by the commuters by multiplying the cost of those CO2 by the cost of a CO2 equivalent green funds. You know this better than me, the EV people. And also in economic terms, the aggregated delay time saved per day by this interchange alone should be about 1,300 hours. Multiply that by the average GDP per capita of the commuter in the junction, should be an economic benefit of about 3.5 million euros per year. Multiply now this by the lifespan of the bridge, which should be 100 years, meaning as long as the government wants to keep it there. It is a very, very efficient investment to do in Kenya. Now, for those who doesn't know, that bridge has been financed by the Spanish government under concessional terms that are very, very advantageous for the government of Kenya. We keep and will keep trying to attract this investment from Spain, but it will definitely be very helpful for Kenya if the European Union could contribute by supporting this sort of improvements in the urban infrastructure of Kenya. By doing that, they should be focusing on European companies, European standards, European quality, and not doing that blindly, because then their efforts could end up improving the fingerprint of non-European countries in Africa, which is already big enough. I think it's our turn now to contribute to the infrastructure in this country. We've had many examples from our company and many others that are doing better jobs than this other country that has dominated the sector in the last 10 years. And so if there is anybody here from the European Union, please focus your efforts on supporting the industry from Europe and also helping Kenya greatly on the way. Thank you.
Thank you all the panelists for your introductions. I think we have a lot to talk about here in different terms. I would like, first of all, I think it would be interesting to understand from a point of view, a more generic point of view, and I would start with Mr. Elio to give, because we talked about e-mobility, but we also talked a lot about the reduction of CO2 emissions, improvement of efficiency on the infrastructure side, not only on the infrastructure for electrical vehicles, but also the infrastructure in general. What is your
to extend a little bit my introduction, and of course it's a really good opportunity. E-mobility is first of all an opportunity. Why? Because as some panelists were saying, you can build a strategy not only for the e-mobility in general, for mobility or for infrastructure, but you can build a strategy according to what are the, let's say, the pillar of growth in terms of economy around the mobility. So e-mobility can be a concept of new urbanism even, and there's a good chance, especially in these countries, because if in certain countries we have stagnation of population and the transition will be in somehow gradual because the car will be replaced gradually and the sort of fuel will be replaced gradually. There are other countries that are growing fast, like Kenya is one of them, that they need to set a certain paradigm for the growth. So in this case, the recommendation, and also my view, as you were asking, it is to take this new planning, because the topic of the panel is also planning, a new urban for e-mobility. It is to take care of the planning, putting in the middle the opportunities that e-mobility in general can bring to the society at large, because we know that e-mobility is requiring investments in technology, is requiring quality infrastructure, is requiring, let's say, a different set of urban planning if we don't want to go into issues of the parking on the spots that are crowded and time to recharge and all of them that we know very well. So e-mobility is not only a matter in terms of infrastructure of charging, but it's mostly the way you plan the city of the future, the way you plan the economy of the city in the future. So it's really a great opportunity to that maybe in the past 20 years we didn't have, and especially after the pandemic, let's say, this opportunity became stronger to redefine our concept of living. Now there are lots of attentions to the quality of life, the well-being, ESG, and the way we work is more digital, and also the mobility should follow, you know. And as I said, my perspective it is that e-mobility is not just a technological topic. It's a new way to plan a city, a territory. Thank you.
Mr. Elio, and you've hinted to the importance of sustainable planning for successful rollout of this e-mobility technology, and good infrastructure is obviously going to support both, you know, electric mobility as well as other modes of transport. I'm still quite interested to even hear what some of the e-mobility operators have implemented and where they see the trends for infrastructure development. Let's say from yourself, Pedro, in Caetano, are you seeing the trends more on Is it home charging, or is it public charging? And what have been the challenges in rolling out maybe charging or even supporting it? And then I'd like to also hear from Philippe about what kind of different application, especially on charging, is being applied, let's say, on the small motorcycles as well as the big commercial buses. Yeah.
Thank you. Just one comment. For me, I agree with my colleague. I think one of the key points on e-mobility is the planning, is the policies and is the planning. Right? Regarding what we have been seeing and the challenges, the way we see the chargers and the infrastructure must be everywhere, must be on the public side, must be on homes, must be everywhere. Right? What we have been doing ourselves is trying to share a bit our experience in Europe, which is in the United States, where the implementation of the electrical vehicles is much bigger. So questions like the price of the electricity, so the business opportunity to sell electricity is there. The challenges for Kenya is the policy to regulate the price for this electricity, so on a sustainable way for the consumer. The second, and this is something that is a discussion, is inside the planning, as you were saying. The second point of view is training people, as I was saying in my first introduction. Okay? What we are doing is we have created a school to train technicians in electrical vehicles. Electrical vehicles are different, so you need to have technicians in Kenya ready to look and take care of an electrical vehicle. And this is something that is not something that we need to wait for someone to do it. We also are participating and training people in electrical vehicles. Okay? Just for a heads up, we trained last year on 125 kids that we took out of the schools, off the streets, sorry, and trained them in mechanics, but also electrical vehicles in order to bring the knowledge to the country. Okay? This year we plan to train 150 kids like this. Okay? So it's infrastructure, is training, but above all, it's planning. It's having a full set of rules to control the implementation of the electrical vehicles in Kenya.
I am going to respectfully disagree. I think we have had enough opportunity for planning. I think we need to do less macro planning, because that just ends up being, we can never get consensus and we can never come to a point where everybody agrees and everything. I think we need more micro planning. For us, it's about, so when it comes to infrastructure, for example, rolling out charging solutions for our motorcycles, we call them the Roam Hub. It's pretty much just a containerized solution that we can drop down anywhere. So it's very easy in terms of an infrastructure, from an infrastructure perspective. And our planning is on the level, do we put it on Mombasa Road or Waiyaki Way? Like that's the level we're at, because all of the solutions exist there. Once again, like we have chargers for all kinds of vehicles. So I think we just need to start placing them and putting them out there on the market and installing them in the different areas. If that is petrol stations or supermarkets or malls or UN compounds, I don't really care. I think all of them should have chargers. We're happy to help out with sorting out financing, sorting out all kinds of things, and just getting more things out there. But I think we have tried to, the whole group of people involved in this. I think if it's public officials or if it's government or if it's the UN or private industry, we spend a lot of time in different conversations and different types of panels like this one to try and talk about what to do. And I think the recipe is quite clear that we need charging infrastructure. We need allowances for reduced import duties and reduced VAT, and then we just need to put more chargers out there to enable it. So we need to make the product attractive, and we need to make the infrastructure available. But we know what the infrastructure is. We know that it's relatively simple. At this point, we just need to get more chargers on the roads of Nairobi. And the benefit is, I mean, your car, you can charge it at home, right? And that's what we're putting out with our motorcycle as well. You can charge it at home. So depending on who you are and how you drive, you can pretty much make it through with only home charging, and then public charging is for your faster routes and faster destinations. And I think we just need either someone who comes in and focuses solely on charging deployment, because that's part of the ecosystem that we today have to cover, and I assume that you also need to cover parts of that today, because that's the thing. When you're in a country like Kenya, there's not necessarily someone who's specified to a niche of it, whereas in Europe you have a bunch of companies who are focused on charging specifically. So I think it's not that big of a problem, and we just need to start doing things, is my main statement.
Thank you very much. I would like to now pass this question to Lawrence and then to engineer. But from Mr. Eliu's comment that we need to start planning the city of the future, it is in line with what the e-mobility, e-vehicles panelists here talked as well in their own ways. But I would like, Lawrence, as a different kind of mobility company that you represent, how you see that urban planning evolving, using also the experience of all the countries where KONE is present, and then pass to engineer in a more specific Nairobi experience, how you're looking at these future Nairobi coming up with all this information and experience that all these companies can also bring to Kenya. Please, Mr. Roland.
Thank you for that question. Like I said, I represent KONE, which is a Finnish company that has been operating directly in Kenya for the last 8 years, actually in Kenya and Uganda, but before that, a couple of years through distribution. Now, during the last 8 years, of course, the company has been able to bring in, let's say, world-class technology and expertise into this country. And what we've seen in the country is that things are moving very fast in terms of, technology, digitization, connectivity, smart building, and all that. We see that happening very fast, and actually it's even growing more. And basically, that shows that the market is actually ready to go to the next level. So we have the market, we have the people, but then who is going to execute some of these things? Now, when it comes to e-mobility and basically sustainable, let's say, transport in the developed world, in Europe, in this case, you see there's quite a lot of advancement. But as you move people on the road, on the way, you still need to have that interconnectivity that you get onto an escalator, onto a platform, you get into a building, you get into the house, out of the house, and that gap, that's where we come in. And with that also, we have a lot of technology in terms of traffic analysis and this kind of expertise that we can bring to actually be able to plug into some of these spaces where we are moving people around. So moving people really is an area that we are very strong at, and technology behind there and different types of studies and approaches of ensuring that we do it in the best way possible. I think as we talk about e-mobility, what are we really trying to do? We've talked about CO2 emissions, greenhouse gases, and all that. What we need to remember also is that in this country right now, there's quite a lot of focus on renewable energy and all that. And yesterday the president here said that Kenya probably is one of the countries with the highest level of renewable energy, because let's say 92% of our power is renewable. So what we are trying to discuss here fits into a big picture of what the country is trying to do, and what we can say to people who want to come and invest in that area in Kenya, that this is the right time to come. And then also, let me just add another point just in reaction to what Pedro had said, that he talked about training and all that. So just to add also that in Kenya, we have people who can be trained. We have people who can quickly grasp into these technologies. And so even as we come into set up in Kenya or start business in Kenya, then let's see how we can even plug in more into the colleges and universities at all levels, technician level and even engineer level. So in KONE, for example, we have done that in Kenya, where we have partnered with the university, and we actually go to teach some lessons on vertical transport and horizontal transport to the university, to the point where we've actually taken people on board from these universities, and we use our offices in Kenya, and we use our personnel in Kenya, some of them, to do designs, to do vertical transport designs for other countries where Kone is present. And we're talking of countries in the Middle East, so Saudi, Israel, and all that. And so we have expertise. We have an environment which is looking into sustainable and green energy and e-mobility and all these things. So what I just want to say that it's time to plug in, and Kone has come in and tried out a few things and sees that it's working. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I think there is an issue that has come up which is so critical, that mobility is basically not about technology, and technology becomes one aspect of a wider, broader strategy that not only speaks about the rolling stock, but also speaks infrastructure, speaks about culture, speaks about the industry itself, and sustainability and issues. Also climate change comes in, rolled up in one big broader image of what that plan is in terms of strategically what a nation intends to have as a transportation solution. Of course, congestion is what people see, but of course, congestion again has causes. So the diagnostics of the causes of congestion, the diagnostics about issues climate change, the diagnostics about adoption of technology have a broader spectrum, and that's why NAMATA is in place. One, as I agree that Kenya is making the steps towards having that capacity to engage partners in dialogue about how not only technologies, but that vision, what we intend to be, is well packaged. So the first case, I think, in Kenya, we just want to say we have an institution now, the Nairobi Metropolitan Area Transport Authority. It has the mandate for planning that public transportation within the metropolitan area. Number two, it has that mandate of coordination. When we talk about urban mobility, is lots of stakeholders. It's not about engineering, it's about business, it's about environment, it's about social experts, it's about original equipment manufacturers, it's about technology owners, it's about traditional investors, is quite a huge chunk of partnership. And in the matter, we have that mandate for coordination from the government side. But again, the issue of e-mobility is encapsulated in the bigger vision of the urban mobility. So as the director from RINA said, surely now is the time that we participate also in this agenda of that urban mobility plan that we are trying to develop. Of course, is a data-intensive kind of a model, and it's very technical, as my brother talked about traffic studies. Now, not necessarily the motorized traffic studies that every road agency undertakes to check on its axle loads and the quality of the pavements. Now it's about the customer, the consumer of the trips at all levels, be it motorized, be it the walking public, the cycling public. And then the technology will come in as a solution to empower maybe faster movement, maybe to reduce emissions, maybe also to bring in sustainability. And noting what the president said when we had the opening ceremony, that we have 92% of our power being renewable, then it's a basic huge opportunity that as a country, we'll be very lucky to leapfrog some of the challenges the Western world has had over time by ensuring that we adopt this evolving technology and be able to benefit from the early gains in e-mobility. We know e-mobility as it is now is a developing technology, and we look at the speed of its development. It means it will become more efficient, it will become more applicable, it will become more affordable, and we would want to be part of this equation. So in a matter, I think what we are looking for is those willing partners, not necessarily in the supply chain of goods and services, but more in terms of planning ideas and sharing experiences that will early benefit us as an institution to do the right plan this time, because the foundation on which the future is based is now. And therefore, this partnership must not be seen as a government-private sector issue. I think it's time we come together, private, public together, and share experiences, as my brother said from room, proactively, not sitting and waiting. I know our ministry, I can see Madam Esther is in the room. She is very well engaged in terms of developing our e-mobility policy. That policy will be the first step. NAMATA is the institution. There is a lot of work to be done in NAMATA to ensure it has the strength to undertake all these major responsibilities that requires the skill, expertise, experience, and commitment, so that what we plan for the future then is bankable, not only to the government, but also to the investors, and also to give that market hope for the future that is a sustainable partnership. So on that level, sir, I think I would want to stop there, because I think we will start with the institution. We need solid planning, and we need solid partnership. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the room for the conversations that have been had? Okay, 2 questions so far.
Okay, my name is Jonathan. I'm the founder of Bike is Best Kenya Enterprise, whereby we are championing for the use of bicycle as a sustainable and alternative mode of mobility to enhance low carbon emission, reduce congestion, and also to enhance active transportation within urban center. We are based in Mombasa. So yesterday, my question goes to the DG NAMATA. Yesterday, I visited PA's office, and I got a very brilliant information there. Out of 10 million population in Nairobi, 51.8% uses motorized transport. 47% uses walk to work, and 1.1% are trips made through cycling. My question is, what is the government's current stance on the development of bicycle infrastructure in Kenya, and what initiatives have been implemented to promote cycling as a sustainable and alternative mobility? We as Bike is Best, we believe when we are talking about e-mobility and urban infrastructure, we are not only talking about electric cars and some other things. It is high time we also include walking infrastructure and also bicycle infrastructure, and then the technology can come later. Thank you.
So I think we can take maybe up to 4 questions, and then we'll have responses.
Good morning. My name is Diana. I'm from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I think I have quite a number of questions, but I'll deliberately target them to specific people that I've heard speaking. I think, first of all, we need to all come to an understanding that you're talking to a country whereby only, and I repeat, a very small number of us, we are around 40 million Kenyans, a very small number of us live in Nairobi. For the rest of the Kenyans live in the rural sector, whereby you find in every 1,000 people, only 28 people own vehicles. So we cannot take the topic of emissions to our rural areas, but then we can adjust e-mobility to fit our rural areas for easy navigation. Because even in the definitions of e-mobility, we talk of power-trained technologies in vehicle information and communication, such that it's us ensuring that accessibility is viable across the whole country. Since all of the panelists, or rather most of them, speak of opportunities and businesses that are supposed to come to this country to necessarily facilitate e-mobility, considering the fact that we also have rural areas, how or where are those comprehensive alternatives to also include the rural areas in that amendment? Number 2, I think it goes to Engineer DG. NAMATA is a very good authority, if I should say. But my big question becomes the Climatic Change Act. Our emissions are at 0.44 metric tons. That basically means emissions is not a problem in Kenya. The problem is the configurable congestion that we have to deal with. The problem is the engagement with the population you're dealing with. The problem is public engagement in such innovatives that are supposed to allow the public that are using the same means you want to sell to us. Are they aware that we are moving to e-mobility? Are they aware that there is electricity in vehicles? Do they even know some of the efficiencies that are supposed to be used in e-mobility, or are we only talking to the ones in the industry? Because at the same time, you can make the decisions for them, but the people who are actually using those cars, they're not aware. So the same question goes to the rest of the panelists. Where are the comprehensive engagements to ensure that the public are aware of what you want to engage in? I heard of traffic lights. Quite honestly, I can give you an example of Mombasa Road. I was stuck in traffic. So I want to know, where are these initiatives being put in place, and where are we being told about them? Where are we being engaged? And how exactly can Kenya benefit from us moving to e-mobility? And what happens to the current organizations and companies that are running the current transport industry? If that would be answered, I think the youth in this country would be really honored by me being answered. My last question. Considering the fact that Kenya promotes businesses and allows you to put a significant 15% of your enterprises to facilitate the youth, can any panelist tell me where the youth are involved in all your engagements here in this country? Then we can move forward to make sure you benefit and we benefit. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Erik Goss. I'm the country director for COE, a Danish consulting engineering company. So I'd like to ask Engineer Gitau on the urban mobility plan. What is the process? What is the timeline for it? And maybe also, since Esther is not sitting on the stage, maybe you could also give us an idea of the e-mobility policy. What is the timeline there? And I hear the frustration from the manufacturer of all this talk and paperwork, and we need action. And of course, I understand that. But to give an example, we just finished a 20-year transport sector master plan in Uganda, and it's a big document. It's a lot of paper, but it also forms a basis for attracting investment. So a lot of investors, a lot of development partners can go in and pick projects from there, and then they can finance them. In Nairobi, I remember we had the JICA financed master plan, and that really assisted us to finance some of the missing links, which has actually helped us a lot. But as we heard, we now need to look at a broader mobility plan that has everything from bicycles, and I agree totally with my brother here. Today you can't cycle because you'll be killed. So we need the infrastructure to cycle. Yeah, those were my two questions. Thank you.
Right, one last question.
Good morning all. My name is Gislan Numbesi. I'm the Managing Director of Robert Bosch, East Africa. Actually, my question is the same like yours to Engineer Gitau. You were talking about leapfrogging. I really love that expression. When you say with e-mobility, we can leapfrog. And I think when we are talking about leapfrogging, it's not just about buying, importing vehicles, from Europe like we did in the past. So e-mobility offers us the opportunity as well to be self-manufacturer. That's why I really love the intervention of the gentleman who talked about local manufacturing. So therefore, I'm very much interested in knowing if your e-mobility policy also include that. And when we are talking about local manufacturing, we should not just look at Kenya. He was talking about the cost of producing a vehicle, e-vehicle. In order to do that, it's not the 45 million people. The lady just said how many people can afford that. So are we looking at the region? Are we looking at our entire continent? I think we need to work with our partners. We need to work with other countries. South Africa is doing something. Egypt is doing something. Morocco, Nigeria. We really need to get in touch with them and see how we can work together in order to reduce those costs. Reducing the cost means what? For me to produce such a car, I will not need to buy the tires or import the doors. But we are not talking about just assembling, you know, but I will need maybe to talk to Cote d'Ivoire or to Nigeria and to South Africa, get the tires from there through our so-called African, free trade agreement, free of charge. And maybe here in Kenya, we'll be able to do the battery. Everybody is talking about we have renewable energy because it's hydroelectric, I guess, right? But are we really looking at lithium ion, as is the case, which is not really fully decarbonized? Or will we want to look into hydrogen, green hydrogen, which is more, CO2 free than any other way of producing electricity? So my question again back to you, your policy, e-policy, electric vehicle policy, is it looking into all those aspects? And when, as the colleague said earlier, when is that going to be available? Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right. Lots of questions have been shot to engineer. So, engineer, do you want to respond to a few?
Then thank you very much. I think they want to give me an opportunity to speak more. So, we had the first question that. Let me go to. Was it Jonathan? Yeah. So, bicycle infrastructure. Use of bicycle and mobility. Yes. I think you visited the PS, I remember. You said that. You got the modal split. In fact, basically, when we say an urban mobility plan, it is the map of the consumption of trips in all modes. It's not about the car. It's the bus, it's the matatu, it's the walking public, it's the cycling, it is the animal cart that carries burger from our market. That is the urban mobility plan. It is the map of the consumption of trips generated from every relevant zone from an origin destination point of view. And then we have a taxonomy of transportation planning where we distribute those trips around different modes. Then we allocate routes and we are able to actually determine how people travel. It is about the person. It is actually not about cars. So it is you and me and the fellow who was cycling in the morning. This is the urban mobility plan. So it's very comprehensive, takes the modal split, everybody in the game of travel, which purpose, for which, whatever time. It is quite an intensive plan. So you should not fear. In fact, Goss spoke about the new plan, the Nairobi Integrated Urban Plan. That is what we are implementing currently. We did the bypasses. Now, in the new plan, we have an NMT master plan. We can share with you. In fact, we have even designated cycle points in the city. We have recommendations on NMT walkways, pedestrian walkways, and this was what was being implemented by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. We shared with them the plan immediately they came into the office. We've been working very closely. Again, we have, through the assistance of the International Transport Development Policy, ITDP, they've been in our space a lot, and we have developed a guideline on street design. You know, most of what you saw with the road authorities was more urban, rural roads design, in terms of a cross-section that just takes care of the motorized path. But now we have an integration of all modes, the walking, the parks, the sitting points, the bus stops, and all these must again be predicated on a standard. So once you talk planning, you talk standards, you talk studies, you talk dimensioning and scoping projects within the professional standards of providing the service that is consumed by the, if it is the walking space, if it's the breadth or width of a walkway, there are professional design tools for that. And of course, that's a professional thing that is done. And in that space, I think we are having the tools. I agree with you, actually. I just want to go jump to Eric Goss, who said you cannot cycle, you'll die. I was an avid cyclist when I was young, and I think I used to cycle kilometers and kilometers, and I agree with him. The probability of dying is very high. But I think this is a process. As a country, we know we want everything today, but we must accept that's a journey, and we must take care of each other, partner, not more about the questions, because the space speaks for itself, but solutions on the table, coming together, partnering, growing, and seeking the knowledge that is already in our libraries and banks of information. There are so many studies around accidents. There are so many studies about our situation in terms of movement and mobility. Let's share this information widely and be able to collaborate more in terms of bringing solutions on the table. And for those who are involved, we just want to bridge the trust gap that the government is serious about surfacing the mobility demand in the city. I want to go to Anne from Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Anne, Diana. Diana is very passionate about the rural areas. Diana, transport is like a basic human need. And we agree with you, currently the rural area is not under the kind of stress our urban environment is. And therefore that is why it's critical first we succeed with our metropolis. In fact, transportation was more of an urban transport issue. If you check most of the textbooks in transportation studies, is urban transport. The less regional services, and these regional services also terminate and find their way into the urban centers, because that is where we have trips consumed for work, for school, and for all the other needs, recreation and all that. So we do agree with you. We just want to inform you that we, for example, have a communication strategy. I would be very happy to share with you the communication strategy. We have a communication strategy that has already taken off with our first communication plan, very comprehensive in terms of the mapping out of the different publics and stakeholders that are key stakeholders in the issue of transportation. They do not just include the investors, they include consumers. They also include people with disability. Our designs are also aligned to that particular demand. So we are talking universal access. We are actually talking not only about comfort and all that, we are talking also about affordability. Most of our people are walking everywhere in the city. I think all of us walk. So walking to us is like everything. Active mobility in this city is so important. I think that should be a priority. If you check our pyramid of priority, at the top is walking, then cycling, public transport, then motorists are just down there. But again, we are not forgetting logistics. Now, in the urban space, it will be tragic to keep building roads. The urban space must be consumed as a product. You want to engage commercially, recreationally, you want to experience the history and culture. So the consumption of the urban space is not basically just riding along. There must be an interaction. So again, there are many strategies around the city. We've been working around these strategies for a long time, from 2014, decongesting the city, having car-free days. We would want to see a dire mode within the city where we don't have vehicles. Again, this will be backed up with policies and strategies. But before we give people a mode of choice, like having a good public transport, everybody will use their cars because of safety and security. If a woman can't use a matatu at midnight, if a small child cannot come to school without somebody escorting them, that is a tragedy. We just want to provide a choice that has a standard and a quality indices, a level of service that can bring issues to do with choice that attract people, not about the poor, Everybody, including you executives who are in big offices, if you're wearing your suit, you can get into our bus, be able to work on your iPad without fearing it's going to be lost. My daughter has lost 3 mobile phones. I'm saving for a car for her. Now, knowing also the urban space, if you check at the GDP growth from 2016-2021, we've grown by 30%. What will happen in the next 20 years? Everybody will be running to a shop to buy a car. When we motorize our streets in the city, again, we will be creating a tragedy. Nobody will go home. Everybody will be stuck in traffic. Let's transform our urban space so that it's consumable. And then it has aesthetics of human value and quality of life. That interaction is not predicated on economic power. We would want somebody who is earning $1 million and somebody who is earning 15,000, the minimum wage, to share the same bus. So seriously, then this is a question of transforming the society. Diana, we don't need to go to issues emission. I think we have discussed that. Okay? Then we go to the issues of promotion of business, facilitating the youth. Actually, the youth in the transportation agenda in this country starts at the storm, at the eye of this particular transformation. I think transportation in Nairobi, basically every worker, every security man, every conductor, most drivers are in the youth bracket. We've been engaging them from 2019, basically sharing the same government boardroom for 3 years. We've been meeting weekly. Today they come to my office every Wednesday. We have a wonderful rapport. We've had workshops with them. We go and meet them in their stations, and it is a process. Diana, it is a long process. We'll continue. We just want to say, may God give us the strength to continue, and also have partners like you to help us also engage the youth. They are key. There is no transformation in this country without is it now 90%? It's 75%. I think those are key, and I don't think we will want them forgotten in whichever industry. Even when one of our colleagues said they're training the youth people, the young people, with border borders, electric border borders, I think that is very encouraging. Eric Goss, the timeline for e-mobility, I am lucky I had carried the terms of reference for the policy. Esther made sure. She said, if I come here without this policy, somebody's going to look at it. And when I look at the timeline on the table, it is clear that the 24th week, it is like a 6-month deliverable from today. 6 months. Esther, you can confirm that we'll be having a policy in place for discussion. And then the strategy will follow. Then the integrated issues to do with the network, the transport networks, and creating acts, legislative agenda, like an integrated national transport plan. Creating a law around that transportation network will be critical for us to start delivering services that can actually be consumed and attracting not only the technology, because we do not want just to speak about E, but also meeting that demand for transport, and also meeting other energy issues, meeting climate issues, meeting quality of life issues. I think transport is a very complex area, and I think we need the right plan for us to believe we have the right platform to grow. Thank you so much for taking so much time.
Maybe I can add my view to Engineer Gitao. Yeah, thank you very much. And then, there's some support from government side is always we discuss in a meeting room. While we were discussing about business for electric bike and electric vehicles, I think, of course, everybody knows that government and private sector has to co-work hand in hand. Because as you said, this is really complex, especially transportation area. So we need to make a very good harmonization between government and the private sector, considering always consumers on the top of our mind, which is very important. And then when I can talk about a little bit about renewable energy, but upstream side, colleague panelist said that in Kenya, renewable energy is 92%. However, this 92% is out of 20% of national grid. So there are so many areas that are off-grid. So we have to also think about this, and then we have to listen to the residents or the people in that region as well to really achieve higher level of renewable energy utilization. And then in terms of utilization of renewable energies, of course, this mobility area is one of the biggest consumer of renewable energies. I checked quickly some statistics. For example, in the market of Kenya, do you know the number of units in operation for two-wheelers? It is about 2 million, is it right, more or less, Philip? Yeah, 2 million motorbikes in the park. Then four-wheelers, well, just passenger cars, etc. I think it has 1 million, 1.5 million in the park. But I thought it was very big number. What, 2 million two-wheelers in Kenyan market? But when I checked the market, number of units in operation in Vietnam, 65 million units of motorbikes. But don't get depressed. If we collect the numbers from other African countries and the entire African continent, how many we have? So it doesn't limit to Kenyan issues, but I think I want to treat it as entire Africa issues. As a consumer of renewable energy, mobility is not negligible. It has a very big impact. And in order to achieve this e-mobility, which use electricity, of course, so we need to catch up with upstream of renewable energy side to minimize our system loss, which has a lot of system loss at this moment. So, because why I say this, the users, I think Diana, you mentioned about awareness of the consumer about electric bike or electric buses. I think there is one more element that we need to look at is tariff. If people notice that there is availability of electric bus or electric boda boda, then next they may think, what is a tariff? What is a rate? When I choose electric bus or electric motorbike, do they have cheaper tariff for me? Then I think it will be an element of motivation for the people to choose electric vehicles, electric motorbikes. So this is not easy, I know, engineer, but I think this is kind of the target we need to aim to achieve together with the context of renewable energy and mobility. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, I just want to address the topic of accessibility and affordability from Diana, however you want to pronounce that. It's to us, accessibility is one of our core words that we mentioned in our mission statement for our company, that we want to build products that are connected, reliable, and accessible. Reliable means that they need to be robust, because the types of vehicles we're building, especially when we're looking at the type of commercial vehicles that we're doing, which is motorcycles and buses, the motorcycles need to be able to run every single day, day in and day out. It needs to be a workhorse. So they need to be extremely reliable, connected, and data-driven, because we strongly believe in the fact that we can make more informed choices about how to deploy products, how to improve products, and how to make products better with data access. And then finally accessible, which both means that the design needs to be extremely human-centric. It needs to be a human-centric design process. It needs to focus on the end user. We do a lot of user testing with the motorcycles before we deploy anything, and then the price comes in as a major point there, where the cost needs to be. So the whole benefit of electric vehicles, and especially electric motorcycles, with motorcycles, an electric one has the possibility of doubling your daily income. Seeing as motorcycles is one of the biggest youth employers, there is, if someone has a number on this that can actually verify the source, I would be super excited to have it. But I'm going to recite the number now. I don't have the source. I hear it flying around, but I've heard that 5% of the sub-Saharan population earn their daily income from driving a motorcycle. If someone can find that data, please reach out to me. But even if it's 1% or 2%, the whole point is that there is a massive part of the population, both in Kenya and in sub-Saharan Africa, that earn their daily income from driving a motorcycle. That means that we have the possibility of doubling that daily income by switching to electric. Right? It has the possibility of creating a lot of extra income for people that will go straight to school fees, to providing better shelter, to providing whatever you need for that. So we have a possibility of changing socioeconomic class for a vast group of people, which I think is yes. I mean, we're doing something for climate change, but where all of this technology is now is that it's readily available and accessible. We're packaging it in a product that makes sense, and it's just very, very exciting to be able to have that social impact on a wider scale, because we can fix climate change all we want. If we don't fix the social situation that is happening in a lot of different countries all across the world, what's the point of it? And then someone mentioned spare parts and accessories and etc. We have designed our motorcycle to be able to be repaired locally. So we have made sure that we have homogenized it with local spare parts available. So, and I've used that myself driving around on a motorcycle. You can just go to a fundi on the side of the street and you can have them repair it. You can fix tires. You can do everything, right? And that's been something that is very important to us, to make sure that anybody, anywhere can use this motorcycle. It's very simple. All the spare parts exist. And we need to make it as cheap as possible. So right now we're still a bit more expensive than a normal boda boda, but we're not too far away. So if the government can help with some of the import duties, we can make sure that we get there. Ooh, and the average age of our company is about 24, if I'm not mistaken. So we're very young.
Yes, I just wanted to speak about what the agency called the Metropolitan Area Transport Authority is working on now. If you read our mass rapid transit system studies and look at our harmonized study that is about 8 years old, there are 5 corridors, key corridors that are heavily trafficked, that has been studied and now are in various stages of preparation. We have one of the corridors that comes from Keno in Muranga, coming through Thika Road, goes through the urban core, then goes towards Ogatarungai, and that we call line 2. It is the alley quick win, whereby we are doing basic retrofitting of the infrastructure to be able to have a rapid transport service. The other one is the one that has gone through very critical preparation. We've been working on it for the last 8 years. It is the one that is coming from a place called Tala, coming through Dadora, one of the highly trafficked corridors, coming into the city through a road we call Race Course, coming into the transportation hub around the Nairobi Central Station, and going towards the Kenyatta National Hospital. Eventually, it will go all the way to Gong. So in total, we are having over 250 kilometers of rapid transit corridor. Our pilot is just working currently on 27 kilometers. But talking about this line, which is well prepared, which is already done about 12.4 kilometers, it has packaged in it 110 electric buses. They are already packaged in the project. They are 18-meter articulated buses. They have been modeled on the operational plan that will actually be applicable for that particular route. And it is full electric. So the commitment of government, and we are lucky to have concessional financing from the European Investment Bank, the French Development Bank, and we have grant from the European Union. And the European Union in the space of NAMATA has spent a lot of many years. I think when we started the institutional capacity of building for the transport and road sector was 10 years ago. But for the last 6 years, we have had intense technical assistance by experts from all over the world. We have a French team in the NAMATA office. They occupy one of our floors. We have a Japanese International Cooperation Agency team also working on bus management. And now we have this project which has that grant component that is coming actually also to boost up the capacity of NAMATA to have the right skill mix and to have that capacity to interact with all stakeholders in terms of mobility. That line 3 is something that we should watch around, because apart from the buses, we believe that the feeder services, as we move to the third generation kind of operational plan, will be basically electric. So I think when you look at the future of electric mobility, starting with that commitment by NAMATA to adopt a corridor that is fully green, then as my brother said, it is not time to wait and see. I think we must all get into the bus and start moving together, because we do not want, again, to have a question, somebody asking, how come you did, we didn't know. I think let us all make it a business of all of us to get to know. And I think what we'll do on the NAMATA website, we will put all that information, including the technical details of the kind of plans that we are undertaking. Sorry for that. And I also wanted to say NAMATA also have that mandate around the commuter rail services. So if you check the organization structure, is that NAMATA, apart from the planning, will also be contracting out operations, be it to government agencies or to private sector operators. So we are also developing transport service contracts. In these transport service contracts, we have captured as an instrument of engagement by the industry in terms of fleet management, maintenance regimes, cost streams around operations, labor transformation, BRT regulation, and it's a complex transport service contract, of course, what we call gross cost contracts. And then we are saying there is no transport without systems. We have one unit we call the Project Development Unit that coordinates all the sector agencies. So on the driving seat for Intelligent Transport System is our agency, Kenya Urban Roads Authority, which sits as a member of that PDU. And again, they are rolling out about 26 junctions, later 100 junctions, all the junctions mapped around 400. And we are starting to roll out an intelligent transport system that will be integrating not only transport services, but all other intelligent systems that exist. Therefore, if you check at the railway services, we have already a fare correction system that's automated. We have a service provider. That fare correction system, again, must also be integrated with the BRT services. We want to see it cascade into the private sector services that will be providing the feeder linkage to the trunk corridors, and therefore system provision for transport is key in terms of ensuring then optimization of public transport investment. Just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for these clarifications. We don't have much time. I would like to raise a final question, more on that packs a little bit a lot of the problems, basically there are a lot of blockages, there are a lot of issues to go through, but connection with this forum, I would like, and starting to give some more time here to Manuel, he raised the EU participation on tenders and support for EU on financing, how the panel as well, anyone from the panel to answer to this, how you see the EU playing a role on improving this market, improving implementation on the corridors that engineer mentioned, through infrastructure, through e-mobility infrastructure as well. How would you see that role being played for a faster improvement?
Well, I guess beginning with the example of engineer, he can just, I don't know how it works, but through these kind of forums apply for financing and support from the European Union. They have an extended delegation in Kenya, and now the European Union working together with them so that they can assure that the private sector that will be engaged in collaborating with these governmental agencies will have that European component and European technology. Should be fairly easy.
Well, then I think, I don't know if anyone else from the panel want to add anything.
Sorry,
yeah.
Joe, I'm just
just
a very short
yes.
comment,
yes.
Because I was thinking from yesterday, so I wanted to share with the audience here. You know, in Kenya, there is a word that people said, every car or the car in front of you is always Toyota. But I wanted to make it happen, the car in front is always electric vehicle. Thank you.
Joao, maybe I just add a comment, not on that, but just generally, I think to say that, you know, the discussions have brought out challenges, I think, as well as opportunities. And I think these are areas where companies that want to come in can be able to come and exploit these challenges, exploit the opportunities. We have a young workforce that's ready to work, ready to learn, ready to be employed, and we have many things that we can do in Kenya. And I think that's an important message that we need to carry with us, that Kenya is a place to be. Thank you.
Well, I have still 5 minutes. Do you want to ask a final question? We have only 5 minutes, but yeah, I don't know if is it quick or a comment or I don't know if we have much time. Yeah, please. Just a quick one, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Alex Monene from Advanced Mobility. So I think I like a lot of the input from the DG and from the rest of the panel, so that we are able to have, you know, action points, KPIs, so that by the next time we are meeting, we have something to work towards. I hope the e-mobility policy will have benchmarks for each of the parties to achieve. I think like the local vehicle industry, assembly has grown because taxes, especially on commercial vehicles, kept on being increased, that it makes more sense to buy new locally assembled than to buy a used heavy commercial vehicle. So I think all the parties here, coordinated by the NAMATA, we need to develop KPIs so that we know that, you know, if the EV industry achieves this benchmark or the PSV industry achieves this benchmark, then this is the support the government is going to offer in terms of subsidies, incentives, so that we're able to transition people to EVs and we help, you know, because people make economic decisions. And right now we find that transition to 2- and 3-wheeler EVs is very easy because within 2 years or less, you are breaking even. But on four-wheelers and above, it's a very long game, and right now the numbers are not making sense. So we need to drive to push that, so that like Kono-san, my former colleague, is saying that in a few years' time, the vehicle in front of you will be electric. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, it's a little bit in line with what I was wanting to say for my closing remarks. So thank you very much. You helped my my job here, because indeed, from all the conversation, all the comments, I believe that there are plenty of key points, key words here: planning, financing. Solutions center not only on the urban areas, but also on the general public and all the geographies of a country. So there are a lot of small areas that need to be looked at in a more holistic way. And as many of the panelists said, it's a complex matter. It's not a very simple one. And I think collaboration at the end is the real key point. Because we need collaboration from investors, from the government, from all the companies that are going to implement, from the implementation part to the planning side. So it is indeed important to have these discussions, to, as the last comment said, KPIs, to bring KPIs to the table where we can have concrete goals and concrete actions to reach where we want to go. And where we already have worldwide a lot of examples where we can learn from and then implement them with here in Sub-Saharan Africa, in the African continent, in the better way. I don't know, Warren, if you want to also have some closing remarks.
So thanks again for this opportunity. I just want to still allow the panel maybe to, in case there are any final remarks or any commitments that you'd like to, make public to the audience here about commitments to sustainable mobility, to e-mobility, to supporting the development of this infrastructure, so that there are key takeaways for the audience. Is there anything that, from Mr. Ilio going round, just final closing remarks?
Just from the final comment, of course, we discussed today how much important it is to policy, to do the policing, to do the scoping, and of course, the best way to implement is to measure. So benchmarking is very important with similar cases, and keep the track of what it is strategically planned, but at the same time, which are the results, which are the social results which are the benefits in terms of sustainability. This should be very well clear stated and measured, and in order that the policies that are going to be planned will be implemented. The best implementation is by measuring always. This is of course, this country is going towards a great roadmap, and this is all my best wishes for that. This is my final remark. Thank you.
Just a quick comment. It's, I agree that the plan, as I was telling, is key, but action is needed and immediately. So I challenge that anyone that is in this room, on the panelists or assisting these, I have electrical cars to sell now, today, so you can buy one today if you want.
Well, thank you for that. I think for me, I already mentioned one of the points is that that Kenya is the place to be, so people should come and invest here. As a company, Kone, we are committed to be in this region and use Kenya and Nairobi as a launching pad to the rest of the region. And then when it comes to sustainability, then we play 3 key areas. 1, accessibility, trying to improve that flow of people through congested places, environment aspects, and then, of course, health and safety. But thanks for having me here.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're still comfortable. Urban planning is complicated. Electric mobility is not complicated. And that's it. I think we need to stop bundling them together and treat them as two separate topics where I'm encouraged by the Director General's remarks on including electric mobility into the urban planning, but that's not the complicated piece. Everything else that the Director General is doing is very complicated. I'm very happy to support with electric mobility wherever we can. We're happy to partner up with anyone who wants to promote action over inaction. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much once again. I think I did mention what I wanted to share already, but yeah, one more time. From upstream to downstream, then collaboration between government and private sector to make a better harmonization. I think this is a key for the better environment of electric mobility, and then healthy planet for the future, because our company has a slogan of with Africa for Africa. And then we are also adding for the future African children, because planet is not ours only. So we have to leave this planet clean as possible for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for my closing remarks. I think when we talk transport, again, we are not speaking about ourselves. Of course, we are speaking about a multi-generational investment that spans beyond our lifetimes. And therefore, we are speaking about not only the current situation, but the future of this country. And also not about this country. It's an issue to do with the region, eventually Africa and the world. When you travel from Europe, you drop 6 hours at the airport, and then you take 10 hours to get to your hotel. I think it is a is bad quality service. And government stands at the center of providing public transport services. So apart from having an economy where the private sector has been driving the transport agenda for 4 decades, it's time for government to come into this space, but close collaboration with the private sector, because again, it's not about displacement, it's about collaboration, finding a way to shake hands and working together so that it's a win-win situation. I agree with my brother about an M&E framework in terms of having performance indicators, because what gets measured gets done. We would not want to have a business process map that has no metric. We indeed need to evaluate how far we are coming and how far we are going, and then we have a trusted plan. So that's very important. I think we have taken that, and I can see my senior director in the transport department is there also taking these notes, because the policy side is with the department. Just to inform Manuel, yes, about the financing again. We have AFD, we have EU here, and I think they have had. That's why I didn't comment on that. I know they know unlocking the urban space is so critical for any economy. We waste a lot of time in traffic jams, and therefore it's critical that then we get that assistance that will help us move a little faster. Then what I just wanted to finally say is that the approach to e-mobility, again, as we have deliberated in many fora, needs a system approach. It's not about one box. We need several boxes to tick along several value chains and work streams that have several activities, that have responsibility points, all of us working as a team with a system approach. And we are saying in Kenya, we are lucky, at least we have a transportation authority. What they cannot do, the State Department of Transport is there, and several players. The other one is we have agreed what we need is a policy, is a strategy, is a mobility plan that will inform a fleet strategy. The fleet strategy can only come when we have an operational plan that is also predicated on a business model that ensures return on investment, because everybody who is investing in the transport arena is also in there to have a return on investment. Then the other one is that we must create champions, not only about electric mobility, but the whole mix of propulsion technology, but giving e-mobility the opportunity it needs now so that it can unlock a lot of the challenges that we are having. When we modeled our Line 3 on an annual cost stream, we found electric buses are 19% more expensive now than ICE, so internal combustion engines. And we know for sure, unless the technology advances, electric mobility will still be a challenge to the African continent. What we need is assistance. We have climatic change funds. These funds must start flowing now so that they can help these decisions to be made early. Otherwise, e-mobility may be, there might be a risk into the market entry. Then I want to assure you, we already have a technical steering committee that involves original equipment manufacturers, local manufacturers. The question of local manufacturing is key to our transition plan. We must develop local capacity for batteries, for rolling stock, and also the training and capacity building, so that even when we speak about e-mobility, we are just not learning, we are also helping in its advancement. Thank you very much, Mr. Yao Ramos. And I also appreciate you, Yao, Ramo, and Andrew for hosting us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, all the attendants. I think everything is said. Let's all collaborate together, from financiers to implementators, to bring to Kenya an efficient urban infrastructure and e-mobility capabilities, and only proper economic growth will follow naturally. Thank you.
I think that's where we'll close it off. Just to leave you with a few remarks, let's remember that under the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Strategy of Kenya, 2020, states that Kenya plans to electrify 5% of its fleet by 2025. Now, the time is already ticking. We are less than 3 years away from that deadline, and less than 5,000 vehicles on the road. We need 12,000. For this transition to happen, we need collaboration. E-mobility is not motorcycles and buses alone. E-mobility involves bicycles, it involves scooters, it involves many different kinds of applications, and that's where you as innovators and financiers have an opportunity to revolutionize this space in a sustainable manner. Of course, collaboration with planners and other infrastructure developers is so critical to this conversation. Let's have the interaction, and thank you again for being part of this conversation.